Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Rick Howe, and I'm going to be the host for this webinar this afternoon. It's called The Art of the Possible, the NHS Analytics Perspective. And what we're going to do is take you through some of the use cases that we've seen in healthcare, and talk about our BI offering and some of the history that's gone into it. Give you a bit of a demo, and we shall go on from there. So if I skip forward. So first of all, just so that we can sort of understand who's on the call and the kind of level of experience you've got with say Power BI, I'm just going to start off with a quick poll. Just bring this up. So you should now see a poll in front of you. Oh, wrong. The wrong one. Sorry, do that one instead. I did the last one first. Right, I can see all the votes coming in. About half of you have voted now. It's still going up. I'll just wait until we get a little higher. Still creeping up. We're about 70% voted now. Just the last few ones coming in, and then I'll stop it and share the results. Right, so as you can see, it's fairly evenly split between people that haven't started yet or are just sort of evaluating, and then we've got a fair few people that are looking to deploy or already using as well. So that's quite interesting. So I'll just show you back my screen here, and we'll move forward in a second. What we're going to do is we'll first introduce who we've got on the call. So we've got 3 people on the call who'll be talking to you, and then I'll do a short introduction about Power BI, so that you can, for the people that haven't started yet or are just beginning to evaluate, it'll give you a nice overview of our product, and then I'm going to hand over to Taran, who will take us through some of the stuff that they've been doing at Cloud2, one of our foremost Power BI partners, and some of the stuff that they've been doing with their customers. And then we'll hand over to James from Rotherham, and he'll take you through some of the stuff that they've been doing. And then we'll have a short Q&A where you can all ask questions and grill me as the Microsoft body on the call, if you so wish. And then we'll move to doing a closing poll. Hopefully that will work, even though I already shared that. But just go ahead and I'll just introduce these guys. So if you want to just maybe introduce yourself quickly, Taran, and I'll go through.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Taran. I'm one of the co-founders and a director at Cloud2. We've spent the past decade and more working across the NHS, and increasingly over the last few years, certainly, working on analytics type projects.
Great. And James, would you be able to do a quick intro as well?
Hi, everyone. I'm James Rawlinson. I'm currently Director of Health Informatics for the Rotherham Shared Health Informatics Service. Sort of working in NHS Informatics for the best part of 24 years, predominantly around West and sort of South Yorkshire.
Okay, my name is Rick Howe. I'm the Data and AI lead for healthcare. I look after about 55 or so trusts in the south of England, in a sort of SQL and Power BI capacity. I've been at Microsoft for about 5 years now, which is actually just a few months older than Power BI is. So I kind of have been doing Power BI since its very inception 4.5, 5 years ago. So now I'll take you through just a little bit about the product and where we see it sitting in organizations. And one of the things that we've tried to do with Power BI is make it very, very quick and easy for people to perform analysis on their data. And so there's this 5 minutes to wow kind of marketing tagline that we use. And it really is about how can we enable people who are maybe Excel pros, not necessarily deep BI skilled people. How can we enable those people to be able to analyze their data, create some interesting looking charts, and get insight from their data in a fairly rapid way. So one of the other ways that we have tried to kind of enable Power BI to reach a wider audience is to enable you to interact with data in a new kind of way. So being able to ask natural language questions of your data is something that we're really seeing as quite an interesting thing for organizations that don't necessarily have even Excel skills, or people that would ordinarily go and do a bit of analysis there. They can actually start to use natural language. So at kind of a C-level or director level, you're able to actually interact with data in a kind of a natural way. And one of the other things that we've introduced maybe about a year ago now is this ability to be able to perform automatic analysis on data. And so we've worked actually in collaboration with our Cambridge Research Centre. We have a Microsoft Research body sitting over in Cambridge, and they've sort of built 25 or so different algorithms that will look over your data and perform things, some analysis to look for variation, correlation, outliers, all of those kind of interesting statistical things that, if you know about statistics, you could probably find out on your own, but it's literally a one click to go and find out these different insights about your data. And you can, in true kind of social media style, almost like things and dislike things, say whether they're interesting, say whether they're not appropriate, and kind of do a slightly data-driven dive into the data. So you think, right, this insight's particularly interesting. Show me more things related to this kind of dimension of that data, and it will start to bring back some interesting things. And all of those things can be then pinned back onto dashboards to make things much more readily available. And another thing that we've tried to do in terms of taking that natural language experience and bringing it to our users of Power BI is to integrate it with Cortana. So for those that don't know, Cortana is like Siri or like any kind of digital assistant, but we've integrated Power BI with that so that people can ask the same kind of natural language questions inside Windows 10 that they would be able to if they went and logged into the Power BI site. So it makes it much more readily available for people to be able to access that on a mobile phone or access it when they're out and about without having to necessarily navigate to those reports. One thing that we've also worked very hard at doing is improving the ability for us to get real-time data in. And so from my experience in the NHS, real-time sometimes means daily. That to some organizations is considered real time. Others maybe do 15-minute loads of things like the bed wait times and that kind of thing in A&E. We have the ability to go right down to just a few seconds of delay so that we can really kind of synchronize this up with operational systems and get real-time, proper real-time insights out to people so that they can really see the state of play as the day runs out and not have to wait till the end of the day to see how they did that day or did the day before. And so we've got a number of organizations using that, mainly for things like, as I said, A&E capacity and things like that. So one of the other things that we have tried to do is Power BI started out as a bunch of add-ins inside Excel. And one of the limitations with doing it in the way that we initially did was that it was reliant on Silverlight. So for those that aren't aware, Silverlight was a kind of a visualization engine that people could code in that was reliant on certain versions of browsers, was not HTML5 compliant, and had a number of issues for being used in this context. And so what we did was actually open source the visualization engine behind Power BI. We based it on the D3 open source framework, and it's meant that for those that are technically savvy or enjoy coding, they can go create their own. But it's also meant that there's a bustling community now behind people creating visualizations. Some of them cost money. Most of them are free. But it just means that we've now got a really, really rich array of different visualizations that have been built for various different specific scenarios, including the one that you see on there of taking 3D objects and that kind of thing and assigning categories to those objects. This could be anything from a bed layout in a ward, or I've seen it used very successfully as a human body for different aspects of where pain might be occurring. So all different kinds of uses for visualization, and we've got some interesting ones around SPC charts and things like that some of our boys over at Salford have worked on. So then what we've also tried to do, and this is probably one of our biggest differentiators when it comes to Power BI, is our integration with the other kind of office and productivity applications. And so most people in the organization will be fairly savvy with Excel and will want to get data into Excel. Well, we've worked hard to be able to make the models that are created in Power BI readily available inside Excel. So we've enabled you to be able to do analyze in Excel. So a single button click and you're viewing that data in Excel and making pivot charts and all of that kind of thing, if Excel is your favorite kind of way of manipulating data, which it seems to be for a lot of people. We've also integrated it with various other tools in the stack, including Teams, so that you're able to actually converse about the data and draw kind of commentary and that kind of thing, and record the commentary that's being said and ask questions about the data in groups in Teams. We've also integrated with Power Apps and Flow, which are essentially our if this then that kind of scenarios, so creating triggers. And so Power BI is itself a service which can create triggers, and so you could have maybe a certain threshold that when a certain threshold is met, so the wait time in A&E over the last half an hour or something goes over a certain threshold, that can trigger various actions, and that could be going and contacting people, sending emails out, reorganizing planners and things like that. Or it could be going and updating back-end databases and various other systems and creating kind of workflows and things like that. So we've made that really, really easy for users to be able to use their data to go and create other jobs and workflows and things off the back of that. One of the other things that we've done is to work very, very hard at integrating the same experience that you get in the browser into your mobile application. And so the mobile application on iOS and on Android actually works better than the one on Windows, because it's 2 or 3 versions ahead. So we've really, really focused on that and tried to bring that kind of rich experience to our mobile users. One of the other things just to call out as well is that we have a rich, bustling partner community behind this, and Cloud2 is a forefront player in this space. Is that we're able to actually integrate with certain systems with deployment solution templates, but also partners like Cloud2 have created a series of templates for reports and things, which are available on our partner solution website as well, which I can give you a link to. And I'm not going to spend too much time going through the actual capabilities of Power BI. I'll leave that to Taran to talk about it and make it a little bit more real for you. But like I alluded to at the beginning, we've made the discovery and exploration a lot easier. In most BI cases, it tends to be sort of 80% of your time that you're spending getting the data in the right shape in order to display it. We've made significant headway in terms of making that a much smoother, easier process. We've also made the report creation very, very easy, so it's nice and drag and drop. Nice drag and drop interface. Like I said, there's custom visualizations. So for pretty much every kind of type of data that you have or problem that you want to solve, there should be a visualization out there for you. And then we've worked hard as well on our R integration. So R, for those that don't know, is a statistical programming language, similar to Python or some of the statistical languages out there, and I think it's the seventh or eighth most popular programming language. Period. So amazing, since it's just really for statistics that you have one that is so prevalent in the market. So we're getting a lot of people coming out of university who've studied computer science or data science or statistics or maths at university, and these are the skills that they're coming out with. So we've got rich integration with R as well. There's a rich, powerful self-service element to this, like I alluded to with Excel, this ability to be able to go and grab a connection to the data and go and mash that up in Excel. We've made that very, very easy for users, and making that the ability then to share those insights back very easy as well. It's a single click to go and share your insights back with other users. We also have more than 80 now different data sources that you can connect to. So regardless of the data source that you're trying to connect to, we should be able to access that and be able to pull data from very disparate systems into one cohesive location and really speed up the kind of BI development that maybe people have been used to in the past. And then we also have the ability to access stuff in a live capacity or schedule the refresh. So depending on how live you want that data to be, we can pretty much meet every kind of refresh schedule that people might want to impose on that data. And that includes stuff that sits in various different disparate data systems. You can choose to put all of that data together periodically, very, very easily. And so I'll just one too far. I'm going to just hand over to Taran now, and he's going to take you through some of the stuff that he's been doing at Cloud2 with some of his customers, and hopefully show you some interesting things. Yep, I can see your screen now, Taran, so over to you. I can't hear you, Taran, if you're speaking.
Yes. That's better. I think you should be able to hear me now, okay? So thanks, Rick, for the handover. Here's just a quick selection of some of the trusts that are already working with Power BI. I know that, in fact, one of the questions that we had pre-webinar was of, what sort of examples of trusts are doing things with the technology. One of the things we're going to do is just work backwards in this demo. So I'm going to start with what an end solution might look like, work through a couple of example report types, and then show how we would go about creating Cloud2 and some of the options that you've got for doing that, if that's okay. So I'm just going to, 1 second. Yeah, so here we're looking at an example dashboard in Power BI, and as Rick showed, you can kind of here see a number of different visualizations that are on there. Most of them are reasonably sort of standard visualizations that are available. So there's some KPI tiles, some gauges, some tree maps. The one at the top left is a custom visual that's showing individual consultant performance on theatres and actual procedures in theatres. We could go in and obviously then go in and ask some questions of that data, as Rick was sort of talking about. So I could go in and say, I don't know, show me DNAs by specialty. And as you'll see, Power BI is sort of in the background working out how to create that report. And it's quite interesting. Obviously, this report doesn't currently exist. It's actually building it on the fly. That's good. Yeah. There we go. So we can see some of that there. And then what we could do is we could kind of interact with this. I could change the visualizations on that individual. So I could change it to a pie chart. I could kind of move that around. I could then also pin that visual. And that would allow me to then pin that to an existing dashboard or a new dashboard. In this case, if I pin it to an existing operations dashboard, the one we were looking at, it would then kind of give me the option to edit the phone view. And there's the phone view of that same report. What's great is there's little to no effort really in terms of if you want to add a new tile that's been pinned to it, you literally just click on it and it's added. And then you can just drag and drop if you want to. In terms of the design option, it's really just what order do you want them in and which tiles do you want on the report. It's incredibly easy to work with. What these dashboards do in Power BI is allow you to kind of click through from an individual visualization into a sub-report. So I could, for example, click through on this sort of actual procedures by month. And it would take me to a kind of the report that sits underneath that dashboard. What I could then do is go full screen on that and then just show you kind of how we could start to analyze that data. We could kind of do all the things you kind of probably expect to be able to do, which is filter data, drill down either on this case, we're looking at theatre's lost activity by individual suites of theatres. So I could drill down into all the theatres if I wanted to. Go full screen and show you that. Here we go. I could drill down on all the hierarchy, which would take me down to subspecialties, or I could go into focus mode and then pick an individual data suite to drill down on. And keep drilling down as required, depending on the data that's available in the hierarchy. You've also got this option now to drill through, so you can kind of go through from an individual thing. So in this case, for example, if I wanted to drill down into a particular suite which is showing more lost activity than others, I could literally right-click and drill through to another report which provides that detail for reporting by suite on theatre's performance. And that would then take me straight through to another report which is pre-filtered to that particular suite. Let's just go and have a look at, then we're going to just jump out of this one and show you a couple of other examples, just to make sure we try and use the time, just stick to the time that we've got. So this data that we just looked at was from Royal Liverpool Hospitals. We've got other data from James Rawlinson and Rotherham, who you're going to hear from shortly. This is some example ED data. So one of the interesting things here is that sometimes we've got systems and EPRs that have free text fields, and we might want to ideally be able to report on them. So in this case, what the presenting complaint for ED was a free text column in the EPR. So we were able to use a custom visualization called the word cloud to bring that data in and make some sense of it. In this case, we're looking at frequent flyers now, so I can kind of filter on that and just see some more detail on that and have that data filtering, including here at this bow tie where we can see kind of how how this particular frequent flyers arriving at hospital, and then kind of some of the discharges by outcome and arrival method. So in terms of timeliness of data, Rick mentioned that you can absolutely go to real-time reporting. in this case, we're looking at some data that's sort of refreshing every 15 minutes, and that works pretty well. And you can obviously have it more, in a more timely fashion than that if required, and the data is available. You can also look at forecasting. There's relatively basic forecasting capability in Power BI. In this case, it's looking at ED attendances from November of a particular year up to just the end of February, and then predicting for the next 30 days ahead. And this is what, often trusts are using this as a roadmap to some of the more advanced analytics and predictive analytics projects. As I look at forecasting and predicting what's going to happen in the future. Now we're looking at some example ambulance data. This is from Northwest Ambulance Service, and here we can kind of see, again, this is calls that are coming in, 999 calls, spread over a patch. We can also slice and dice that data by CCG cluster in this case, if we wanted to, or look at all the data, and also by different clusters depending on geographies. And there's quite a lot of flexibility in terms of how we can use different types of geo mapping structures. So in some cases, this case is by postcode. It could be by latitude, longitude, could be by shape files, polygons. There's a fair degree of flexibility there. And as we can see, again, we've got a free text field coming out of that call system. So again, we can start to filter on that and look for any patterns in that data. We can also, what's interesting as I was exploring this was that mostly the nature of the call is consistent across most of the different localities and the postcodes, but for some reason, this particular area, there's sort of a higher degree of falls, as we saw earlier. There's also some areas where there seems to be a higher degree of poisoning as well, like food poisoning, I guess. So again, it's quite interesting in terms of the data that you can, the insights that could be pulled out from some of these free text columns. I appreciate we're largely showing operational reporting here. We've got trusts that are looking at how they're reporting on their ESR data. So it's a very, very basic report on sickness absence data that we've pulled in Power BI. And again, you've got some drill down capability, but also the ability to filter that data and analyze that data more extensively as well. But beyond what you can do in Power BI itself, you can also, as Rick said, pull that data through and integrate it into different systems. We are able to pull out individual either reports or different KPIs into products like SharePoint now. So there's different things that customers are asking us to do. Other areas that we're being asked to help with is around the ability to capture data and have that automated. For example, one particular customer just wanted to collect commentary on specific KPIs each month. And what we've been able to do is, well, a couple of ways to do that. One way is to kind of capture that data in SharePoint and then push that through into a data warehouse. An alternative approach we've taken at a recent customer is to actually capture that data in Power BI itself. We've got some innovation that we've done around that, and that's something that we could demo as a follow-up if required. If anybody's interested in taking a closer look at that. So what I thought we'd do next is just kind of, as we've just gone through this relatively quickly, just kind of show you how we might go about building one of these reports. I mean, ultimately, you've got a few different options there. So if I go back to my slides, you've got kind of, from a layout perspective, I think hopefully you saw that a lot of our reports have a fairly consistent look. That's because we've done some work with templates that are available and design and layout templates. And for any of you that are either starting out or already using Power BI, you're probably aware that there's effectively 4 different approaches you can take. You can either just use Power BI out of the box, in which case you'd kind of start with a blank sheet and just, you know, add your visuals into there and off you go. Or you can have fairly rudimentary basic layouts, and you can create a layout in a blank file and then save that as a template. You can then go and add in an enhanced theme, which might include, for example, such as what we've done, which is to include NHS branding, theme, colors, and some various controls over font sizes and font colors, etc., to try and produce a kind of enhanced design. And then there's another level, I think, where you're using custom visuals to try and optimize some of that whole experience for authors. So you've clearly got some options there, and I think that they're all potentially viable options. I mean, inevitably, most people start with option 1 and work their way up over time. So if I show you an example, let me see. Yeah, so here, in fact, one of the things I think we should probably just show is if you're bringing data into Power BI, you'd kind of start here, and you'd you'd kind of have this options for the amount of data sets that you can bring in. So you've got quite a lot of options there, from databases to files to all the usual candidates. I don't think we've come across anyone that any data source that from any of our trust customers that's not there in terms of what they need to connect to. So that's worked very well so far. If I jump to this is an example template of ours, based on one of our templates, and there's in it you've got a number of different pre-built layouts, as we can see. And then if you wanted to then, in this case, what we're doing is we're connecting to a data set that's been published up to Power BI, and we're effectively using that like a Power BI cube. So this is a theatres data set, and you can see the tables over on the right. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Yeah. So if I wanted to build out this report, what I could actually do is, in this case, using our template, you've got this custom property, so the title can just be added in. There you go. And then you can literally go in and then go, okay, right, let's add in some data values into the cards. So DNA might be a good one. And then let's stick one more in. Maybe cancellations, maybe. Say. Yeah. And we can do most things in templates in Power BI. There's one thing you currently can't do, which is apply a background automatically. So it does take introduce one small step that needs to be added. And then you can go in and add in some visualizations, and then we can kind of go in and go, okay, here we go. Let's stick that in, just show you how that looks. And the same again, let's have a look at last activity on day by specialty. So that's how we would go about building a report using templates. And what we find is that should give a kind of consistent approach to design and layouts, as well as the NHS branding and a number of other things around delivering that consistent experience for end users. But as we said, you've obviously got options there. If you want a heads up on the sorts of things you might want to look at in terms of building out templates, here's a kind of a summary of some of the things that we've added into that template. If moving on then, so beyond the technology, I think if you were then looking at things that you might want to consider for a Power BI project, I've kind of mapped out a dozen or so things. The top 4 are the things that we most commonly get asked about, and I think some of them are more straightforward. We may get some questions on some of these either at the end of the webinar. You're welcome to ask. If we don't get to answer them all, obviously we can take some of those offline and come back to you individually if we run out of time. What is quite interesting is once you get the basics kind of answered around licensing and setup, then it's really thinking about how you're going to go about building a project. And obviously you've got a few options there. You can, as ever, you can kind of build in-house and do all that stuff the usual way, or bring in contractors. And in our case, we've got a particular approach that we like to take, and that's there we go, a Kickstarter, and that takes customers through an 8-week project to Power BI. So again, whether or not you're going to work with a partner, there's some things that you hear that you're going to want to think about around Power BI cube development and dataset development, and how you go about building out your reports and dashboards, and ultimately how you're going to build in a plan for training and knowledge transfer. So I think I'm out of time now, so I'm going to hand over to James to take it from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Taran. Hi everyone. I'm just going to have about 10 minutes just showing you some of the stuff we've been doing at Rotherham, particularly around our journey. Hope everybody can see my screen and things now. Okay, so just very quickly. So hello again, I'm James. I'm Director of Health Informatics at Rotherham Foundation Trust. Been in NHS 24 years. And the common joke is I've been trying to get out for about 23, not been very successful. Rotherham is at the bottom of Yorkshire, centre of England, as we like to say. We're medium to small DGH. Importantly, we are an integrated service, so we do community services in Rotherham, but also across other parts of South West Yorkshire, particularly dental services. We are rural with an industrial centre, so we have more cows than people, I'm largely told. But we also have one of the lowest internet usages of an area across England and Scotland. I think we've just been picked to the post by Fife and Blackburn, yet 3 miles away Sheffield is one of the largest internet users. And as I said before, we're a shared health informatics service, so we provide services to our GPs, CCGs, parts of social services, and some other not-for-profit organisations. So, in terms of us as an organisation, I've been here about 2.5 years now, and our priorities have tended to stay pretty similar. So we put in an electronic patient record system called Meditech back in 2012. Community services predominantly used System 1 TPP, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. We have an in-house built Rotherham Health Record system, which is a clinical portal with some operational intelligence over the top of it, which personally I think is really important. We should never attempt to split the two. We need to do clinical stuff and operational stuff. That's what healthcare is about. Our infrastructure is aging. We have computer centres, which I think were built in the 1970s, and they look like they were built in the 1970s. And the days of healthcare organisations providing technology, computer rooms should be cast to the past, really. Traditional information, coding, data quality, analysis services, and top of our organisation agenda, and I'm sure the vast majority of people on the call as well, is just general financial sustainability. We ended last year £23.5 million in the red. We didn't sign our control total, and we're projecting a £20 million overspend, which is just below 10% of turnover in next financial year, or this financial year now. So when I sort of got to Rotherham, a bit like lots of organisations, our sort of reporting really depended on you managed to get hold of somebody, and we would create a SRSS report, which looked, and we'd pre-can that. We'd have a bit of a guess of what you sort of wanted. And if you wanted a list of things, then go for it. Works really, really well. Or we might even do something in Excel, pivot tables, the information analyst, the godsend, and the sort of user's sort of nightmare. The data's there, but it doesn't sort of stand out in terms of information and more importantly sort of insight. What is this actually sort of telling me? Increasingly, as we get busier, there's more demands, more pressures operationally. We want people to do the jobs they're sort of employed to do, which is look after sort of care of sort of patients, and I think our job is really to give them some analysis and insight as well as the data. So this organisation, my organisation, we had ClickView. I think we've tried to get Tableau in at one point. I've certainly sort of deployed both products in previous organisations. Very, very good, very, very good. It gets quite expensive as you sort of scale that out, and certainly what we experience-wise tend to sort of found is we were having to be quite frugal in terms of who had licenses. The enterprise licenses were really expensive, and you needed all the tin and the operating systems and all that sort of stuff. So we really wanted to accelerate that data acquisition, visualization type sort of agenda. We needed something that would connect to live systems or near live. This notion of platform agnostic and works, something that ideally would work on Windows operating system, PC, tablet, Android. I want to say Windows mobile phones, but I think they're dead now, so I'm not really bothered about that anymore. Something where we could absolutely guarantee I'll be able to analyse who's looking at what. We all know that we produce lots of information for lots of requests, and we're not always sure whether people are reading these things or not. And also something affordable. The financial position is acute, to pardon the pun. So we've gone down this route. We started about sort of 2 years ago. We found this product called sort of Power BI. Must admit, it didn't feel like a Microsoft product. The support community was very responsive. It didn't at the time. It's changed a little bit, but it's certainly sort of value for money. You could make suggestions, and you still can. Then a month later, those suggestions would be part of the sort of global sort of product release. It changed every month. It certainly felt to a few of us, this is somebody who Microsoft has sort of bought, as opposed to they've developed sort of in-house. And that's still continuing, this sort of fleet of footness and being able to adapt to customers' demands and requests. It is important that the world we live in sort of changes. So we had a strategy around, as well as my directorate and having skilled informaticians, is about how can we enable tools to people outside of informatics to be able to present and slice and analyse their own sort of presentations and data. So we're down the route. Power BI, we've connected our local systems up to the cloud. We went through all that information governance bit, did the risk assessments, assured some of our IG sort of people this is what we're going to do. Initially, we bought just a handful of some Power BI Pro licenses, and there's lots of information online about how those licenses work. We've now got the Power BI subscription service, I think it's called. And we connect up to both near real time and sort of live sort of sources within the organisation. So what I'm going to do very quickly, I am conscious of time and everybody wanting sort of Q&A, is give some examples. So this is, I did have sort of screenshots, but I thought I'd just actually sort of show you it. So this is our Power BI tenant. It's on Azure's sort of secure platform. My users, my customers, we log in with our local PC username and passwords, and when that changes, this changes. So you don't have to remember user IDs and sort of passwords. Killer. we've structured with the help of sort of Cloud2 and is some containers for our called workspaces. And I'll just spend the last 2-3 minutes just showing you some of the stuff we've done. So this is refreshed every night, data utilization, and you can click on various sort of things and see which consultants are doing better or which theatres are doing better. And these live demonstrations are actually shows us through time. So this is one of the very first ones we did. We've also used Power BI to do some bed modelling across the organisation. So we want to really have a think about reconfiguring surgical beds in Rotherham. So add the slicers and all that sort of stuff, and does it change with female, sort of male? There's different surgical specialties have different requirements in terms of beds and well, else it's a number of daily admits, but this probably took the best part of maybe 3 or 4 days to sort of pull together, because most of the data we've already got. It's just about being able to present it in a way where you can slice, dice, ask it questions and do more things with it. This one's live ED, so this is, if I refresh it, it should change. Oh, great demo. There you go. ED non-patient level, probably a bad example, and I've been sent the sort of wrong link, but we have some data sources that will go directly down into our systems from the cloud, pull data out and present that. We've also got some reports, so this is really sort of neat sort of feature. Over sort of winter, we needed to share some data report type stuff with our sort of commissioners. So rather than recreating something, we've used the Power BI service, and what we've been able to do, and anybody can do this now, you can invite external users to your reports. So by clicking on share, we share this with our CCGs. Now there's no patient identifiable data behind it. We didn't have to open firewalls, we didn't have to do any of that. They didn't have to buy any licenses because it's on our sort of tenant. We created it, click of a button, and they were able to sort of see it. Some recent sort of functionality. So, like most hospital providers, getting people through that sort of conveyor belt's important. So we created something called premium discharges, which our clinical teams use, and you can increasingly over the last sort of 6 months, Power BI has become a bit more interactive. So you can start creating these information type buttons, but always you've been able to sort of slice and click on various bits and pieces and go backwards and forwards. And then the last one of the demos I just want to sort of show you is, so this is again sort of near real time. So it's some update once a month when we get this sort of data, but our community services use this to monitor what's going on with our contractual performance and particularly sort of operational service delivery with community. And may not work, but what you can do also with the service is, and I'm doing this live, don't really know what I'm going to do, but you can sort of right click and It's Intelligence will have a bit of a go at trying to work out what answer you might want from the question you're sort of posing it. Sometimes it's not always fantastic, so often we've seen answers, it's telling us that 100% of all Fs are female and 100% of all Ms are males, which isn't that sort of surprising really, but this has had a bit of a go. I don't think that's particularly so good if you ask me, but there are times when it has shown some better analysis. So I know that's a bit of a rare world. I did really want to sort of keep everything on track with sort of time. I think we're now moving back into sort of questions and answers really. So I'm going to hand you back over to Rick, and thanks very much. Over to you, Rick. From you.
Okay, yeah, no, thanks very much. So here, yeah, I thought we'd just open the floor. I know some questions have been coming in the chat pane there, but if anyone else wants to start asking questions in that chat window, Taran, I don't know if do we get people to come off mute at this point and ask questions like that, or?
I think that's over to Azu, really. It's a question for her.
No, I think if you, sorry, it's Oliver here from Cloud2. I think if everyone could ask any questions in the chat window, then we'll answer these as we go along, if that's all right. So I know that we've had a go at answering some of the questions as the presentations have been going along. I think there's one answered so far. So Ben Scorer has asked if we have reporting templates set up with existing datasets, i.e. CDS and MHSDS. Taran, I think you may be best to answer that one.
Yeah, so we have with certain datasets, from our perspective, it's been mostly acute so far, where we're actively looking to work with trusts that have some mental health datasets and primary care, and we've got several conversations going on and business cases going through, but at this point in time, it's mainly acute ones that we've worked with.
Yes, so I know them. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, James, there was a question on what issues have been raised and overcome by adding NHS data to the cloud. So I don't know if that's something that you want to just touch on.
Yeah, okay. It's very, very sort of relevant. I did sort of smile when Rick did his introduction earlier about Microsoft have been doing some stuff with sort of Cambridge. And I'm thinking, I'm sort of a little bit sort of afraid he's not going to say Cambridge Analytica, because that probably wouldn't go down very well.
As soon as I said it, I thought Cambridge Analytica, but then, yeah, I did correct it back to being like research.
Yeah, the whole cloud piece, I think, is really, really sort of interesting. I can see one of the honest members have said, and it just did show, has recently issued some guidance. That guidance is useful. I think what's important is it's cloud or any other sort of platform. Organisations need to go through their own sort of due diligence and governance. If you do the right sort of things right, do your sort of risk assessments, get your information governance sort of people involved. There is not a reason not to do it on the cloud, despite what anybody says. But what we've spent a lot of time is ensuring that both our directorate and also those outside of health informatics, if you don't need to use patient identifiable information in your data set, then don't do it. It's using that sort of thought process. Not all data needs to have patient identifiable information, or even patient sort of local identifiers like RU numbers. If you don't need to do it, then don't do it. As a side note, what we're sort of working on sort of going forward is this notion of a regional, we're calling it a regional suite normalization engine. So we want to be able to sort of process data sets from across multiple sort of sectors, social care, third party, ourselves, GPs, run them through an engine which essentially would scramble up and create a pseudonymized key which allows us to do that further sort of deep analysis with a little bit of assurance that we're not necessarily processing what could be identifiable information. I think there's always going to be exceptions. We're healthcare. Some of the patients we treat they're all unique, and some have unique conditions. But I think if you think about your data well and do the right things right, then you'll be okay. I hope that helps.
Yeah. So we'll just move on to the next question then. I think there's been a couple come in. Taran, I guess this one's for you. Anthony Jackson has asked if there's an indicative cost for the Power BI Kickstarter.
Go quiet.
Taran?
Well, yeah, it's that blooming mute button again. So Anthony and everyone, we try and be really transparent about our pricing and just try and work out what it takes to deliver what we think the market needs and customers want, and have that almost as a templated option because it helps customers plan and budget. So the Kickstarter is a fixed price at £15,000, and it includes a number of things. But again, we can talk about that further if required.
Excellent. And I think another question is, Sammy has asked if we have examples of organizations within NHS where Microsoft BI has been used for procurement, spend and demand analytics.
Yes. Yeah, so our procurement department use it. We also have been using it for drugs. So getting data from Lloyd's, our pharmacy sort of provider, sort of front of house pharmacy provider, with our procurement sort of teams, and putting that together, and then doing some analysis around volume, price of excluded sort of drugs. So yeah, we do as an example.
And I've been at working with a trust in the Midlands whose director of procurement is actually their kind of lead Power BI developer at this point in time. He's sort of, taken the bull by the horns and really is using it for a lot of their procurement type reporting. So it's quite interesting that you can get this sort of Power BI does enable, because it enables you to connect to data so easily. You will sometimes find some business managers kind of leading the way. Feel free to contact me if you want more details on that, Sammy.
Yeah, so I think we are officially out of time now, and I appreciate there's a couple more questions which have been unanswered, so we certainly will be getting back to you by email, or if you've got other contact details, then we'll certainly get back to you and get some answers for you with them, if that's all right. I believe the chat can stay open a little longer, so if anyone does want to ask any further questions, then feel free to do so, and I will take a look at them and yeah, get back to you, as I say. So Rick, is there anything else you'd like to add, or Taran?
Well, there's a couple of questions, or at least one on training, I thought. So I'll just very quickly mention that. Yeah, there's a couple of things we've been working on around what we might call an adoption pack in our case, which is sort of a combination of instructor-led training and through a Microsoft MVP, kind of a recognized person within Microsoft and Power BI, complemented with some kind of report builder training. So again, that's worthy of a conversation. If Alpesh or anyone else wants to have a chat about that, let us know.
Yeah, so there is one more question. I think Dominic's just popped one in as well. So if we've got a little bit of time, we can answer that, Taran.
I've just answered it. Yeah. So
have you just answered it?
We don't have full analysis right now. I don't believe, although there may have been an update, it is definitely in the pipeline as something that is being worked on. But as a workaround that I did with a different customer, was we created a list. Essentially a table with one column in that had every number from 1 to 1 million in, and then that was used to drive the parameter for the what if analysis. So somebody could pick from a very, very wide range of data. It worked for that scenario, but if it doesn't work, if it won't work for your scenario, maybe there's something else that we can do as a workaround for that. One other way to tackle what if analysis is to use the analyze in Excel. Get it into Excel and then use the what if analysis built into Excel to drive the variables there. So that's another option. But yeah, if that doesn't answer it, then reach out to me separately, and I'm sure we can solve it. I think that's it then. I think everyone's more or less had their questions answered. So if there's anything else that people want to find out in more detail, then please get in contact with one of us on the call. I'll just leave up our contact details there so that you've all got that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, James. Thanks, Taran.